ॐ भैरवाय नमः। ॐ हिङ्गुलाम्बिकाय नमः। ॐ कामाख्याय नमः। ॐ कालकालाय विद्महे कालातीताय धीमहि तन्नः कालभैरव प्रचोदयात्। Namaskaram. Welcome to yet another video of our Ishtartha Guru Bhairava, where we know him a step closer as what we know him last minute. See, in today's video, we will talk about Dasha Mahabhairava. We have already spoken about Dasha Mahabhairava of two Swarupas, Kshobhya Bhairava as well as Trayambaka Bhairava. So in today's Swarupa, in Dasha Mahabhairava, we will speak more about one of the Bhairava Swarupa who is misunderstood very commonly from a mythological point of it. But today we will try to understand more from a mythology, or we can call it as more into a tantra way, so that actually we know him, how exactly this particular Swarupa was has best verses. Okay. This Swarupa is very well-known Swarupa for everyone. The Swarupa of Jyotirlinga, one of a Jyotirlinga, Mahakala. It is Mahakal Bhairava. We call him only Mahakala, but it is Mahakal Bhairava. Let me just tell you, where illusion ends, that's where Bhairava begins. So we all see Bhairava as very, very limited, as one particular Swarupa, and every one of them know only from a Kala Bhairava perspective. So but let me, before taking you all to this particular story, I would like to tell you one thing. Do not get confused about Kala Bhairava and Mahakala Bhairava. Both are powerful, yet their essence are distant. They are little, we can call it as it's a different Swarupa all about. I believe we all being a Bhairava, being in a part of a Bhairava consciousness, we know that actually Kala Bhairava is he's actually a timekeeper. He's a guardian of the time, the fiercest, the protector of the Kashi Dhama, the Moksha Dhama. He is actually the who take care of entire Kashi Khanda as a protector, who watches like over to the, we can call it as a death, and we can also call from a Moksha Dhamma perspective, it may be a decaying of the body or the decaying of the existence and ever moving wheel of karma. We have spoken about this in one of a video about how exactly he's a karma data. He is more than a dharma. He is actually karma as well as more than dharma. We have spoken about this in a beautiful video. Just try to listen those also. Here in Kala Bhairava, we normally see that he reminds always us about taking care of Kala, taking care of the time, the honoring the time, and to live in alignment with the dharma. And dharma is the foundation of Kala Bhairava. And to understand everything in this creation is imperative. It is very, very essential for all of us. But in Mahakala Bhairava, it is much more deeper. We need to understand. We need to go even more deeper knowledge. It is like Mahakala Bhairava, he is not just the ruler of the time. He is the destroyer of time itself. He is just not ruling the time. He is the destroyer of the entire time mechanism. He is the destroyer of the entire time aspect. Mahakala Bhairava dissolves something called as in time and beyond. We as a humans can normally conceive or understand a particular aspect or a particular being only when there is a space, when there is a time, and there is a knowledge. Basically, these things, we call it as a time and space. Mahakala Bhairava is above than that. He destroy of the time itself. Where here we need to understand, Kala Bhairava teaches through the discipline and boundaries. He tells us that this is how you need to follow. That is the reason Ashta Bhairavas were been created. But Mahakala Bhairava, he transforms through the transcendence knowledge. Here, we being from a Bhairava consciousness perspective, we need to understand when we walk into the Bhairava Tattva, to walk with Kala Bhairava, it is like we become very aware as what exactly Dharma is all about. But to surrender to the Mahakala Bhairava is to become free of ourselves. He is none other than Guru Bhairava. See, Guru Bhairava is a Tattva. Guru Bhairava is not a Swarupa. Guru Bhairava is a Tattva of a Bhairava consciousness. Here, the surrender to the Mahakala Bhairava is to become the free, not to become the aware. Above than the awareness is actually freeness. It's a void. As you all know, like when it comes to we being in a space, floating in a space, we have certain substances like a planetary substances, and we can only know when there is a substance around us. But when there is a void, complete void, there is complete space, no nothing, you would not be knowing about what exactly is next because you are already in a void. But this is the stages which you need to know. Unless you know the object, unless you know about there is something, then only you know about something called as a nothingness. And that nothingness is Mahakala Bhairava. So, once guided you through the Mahakala Bhairava is all about, he guiding us through the abhodhan cycle of the life and death, who takes us through beyond all those things. We always have a cling between actually what is next will going to happen. These are the common aspects. When you be in this five sense of the body, normally you will get to know about, you will always be in the five senses. But when you rise above from the Bhairava consciousness perspective, the tattva inside you will grow in such a way, you will become aware of each particular elements which are present in yourself. And we have already clearly spoken about these elements, how exactly our Guru Bhairava is blessing us to know about these tattvas. And here, Kala Bhairava is all about awareness of this sense. But Mahakala Bhairava is above than knowing something. It is becoming free. So basically, in this today, whatever in this journey, both are needed, Kala Bhairava as well as Mahakala Bhairava, because we need to understand very basic essences. Kala Bhairava Swarupa is about awareness. It's about the liberation. It's about the discipline. It's about the dissolution. These are very much mandatory when it comes to this existing in this world. But when you want to go into the Bhairava Tattva, they together they lead a seeker. As a sadhaka, we need to know both plays the same vital role, but it is beyond the awareness. It is from the outer clock or whatever we see as a clock time. It is above than the clock time. It is like a inner stillness of the truth where we try to know both the Swarupa perspective. Here today, we will talk about on the same lines, because when it comes to the Bhairava Tattva or a Mahakala Bhairava, there are certain beautiful mythological events which you need to know, which will get to know about a beautiful aspects, how exactly Mahakala Bhairava was able to bestow us, and how his Swarupa is so divine and radiant that actually we, as from a Bhairava consciousness perspective, we will get to know about him in a much more detailed way. So we'll try to do a prayatna, we'll try to do a just an attempt to know about him in little bit of essence. So let me take you through back to the one of the yuga. It's not Aruna Yuga as what we spoken in the last time. It is about beyond the time, because we are talking about the Swarupa of beyond the time, beyond the form. In that particular realm or in that particular yuga, to a subtle moment where even devatas could not fall into the shadow. This is not just about some mythological stories we are trying to tell about it. It is about the destruction, but it's not about the destruction of the story where we need to know. It is about more than the destruction. It is about the purification, not about the punishment, but the awareness. Because Mahakala Bhairava is all about the freeness, the free, becoming free. Awareness is where actually we get into a particular storyline or a mythological event where actually destruction will happen. Asuras will be there. Yes, here also we will be talking about that. But above than that, a purification, a punishment would be there, but with awareness, a silent awareness. This story actually is a well-known story for most of you, because most of you being a Sanatanis, you would be knowing how exactly these stories are connected. This is a story of somewhat like a devata, like when a pride enters the divine, how exactly the changes happens into the Daivatatva. This is a story of Narasimha, the avatara of Mahavishnu. Here we need to understand it is not about particular Shaivism or about the particular Tattva perspective I'm trying to talk. Here actually we need to understand how exactly Paramashiva able to take his form into a different Swarupas, where today we are able to knowing Paramashiva as a Bhairava consciousness perspective. This story starts with Bhagavan Narasimha, the avatar Narasimha. Here, he is, you know about him, like he is a half lion incarnation of Mahavishnu, destroying the Asura of Hiranyakashipu. I would think you would be knowing about Hiranyakashipu. So basically, Prahlada's father, most of them would be knowing about this. Prahlada was a devotee of a Mahavishnu, and once he took a oath that actually he will get it diluted or he get merged into the Daivata. He meditates to the Vishnu Surupa in such a way, he even be against his father Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu being the Rakshasa Swarupa, he is also being said in the storylines that actually they are the Swarupa of Jaya Vijaya. So basically, Jaya is what Hiranyakashipu is all about. Okay, they were the Dwarapalakas of Mahavishnu, where actually they got a Rishi Shapa and they came to Bhuloka, where actually they took a Janma in such a way they were able to go back to the Vishnu Loka in a very three janmas, such that actually in one of a janma they were against all these three janmas, they were against the Mahavishnu, or there was like 11 janmas they need to take where they are supposed to actually be part of the Mahavishnu. So they chose that actually 3 times they will be taking the life and they go back to the Vishnu Suluka. So you would be knowing all these stories about it, but today we'll not talk about more about the story about the Hiranyakashipu, but here how exactly Narasimha Swarupa, Narasimha Avatara, when he came to this Bhuloka to destroy the Hiranyakashipu, because Hiranyakashipu was actually trying to kill his own son, Prahlada. And when Prahlada called for the Mahavishnu, Mahavishnu came as a Lord Narasimha. came into a Ugra Swarupa, like half a man. With he made sure that actually he put the Hiranyakashipu, made sure that actually he sat on the dwara of the particular palace, and he made sure that it is not the lion, not the actually sunrise or sunset. In the actually Sandhya Kala, he made sure that actually he was able to destroy the Asura of Hiranyakashipu. See, basically here, the universe trembled when actually the Narasimha came into an existence. There are beautiful stories when we talk about Narasimha, because when this particular avatara came into an existence, the entire Bhuloka was trembling. The trembling was in such a way that even Prahalada was actually in such a awful situation that actually he could not understand whether this is actually a demon or a devata. The reason behind all these things was Hiranyakashipu had got a boon from the Brahma that he would not be killed by male or a female, by animal, or in a day or a night. That is the reason Mahavishnu took this Swarupa, because you know that actually Tridevas are actually the Trikala Jnanis. They know everything, and that is the reason actually for making awareness they came into this existence. Here, what we need to know is even the fiercest form of the, when it came into the existence, for the righteousness, it is not about the immune, okay? It is about a subtle illusion, okay? Why I'm try to tell this is when Narasimha actually do the Vadha, or when he killed Hiranyakashipu, what is next story we need to understand? In the aftermath of the victory, after killing the Hiranyakashipu, Narasimha Swarupa, Narasimha Avatara, the inner flame, he was so Ugra Swarupa that he did not become cool at all. Even the Stuti was being told, Kavacha was being told, Mahalakshmi was trying to praise him. Even before coming, Mahalakshmi came into in few of the stories, it has been said that after the Stuti and Mahalakshmi coming, he became calm. No. In the Kashmiri Shaivism, there is a storyline very beautifully been articulated when it comes to the Dashamaha Swarupa of Bhairava. It is articulated that Narasimha Avatara was unstoppable. It was unstoppable for us to know the inner flame was so violent that he was not trying to calm down at all. There was a little pride crimp into on the particular avatara, that the pride of ego, like pride of the human, because he is half human, half animal. In that particular Swarupa, he is half human and half animal. Here, he is not completely Daiva Swarupa. So there was a crimp of ego, like human sense. But the divine imbalance was there because of his particular Swarupa of, we can call it as the guna of both animal as well as human. Imbalance was being created. We can call it as like Pashu guna, because of both gunas was there. He had tasted his own power, like actually now he is in that particular Swarupa. He being in that particular Swarupa, he had tasted that he has immense power, and he began to burn, to be more brighter, more violent. He was like roaring. Each roaring actually was disturbing the cosmos. Cosmos imbalance was being created by each roaring of Mahanarasimha. The avatar of the Narasimha created this. The entire disturbance was created in the cosmic harmony. When all this immediate aftermath happened, okay, what we need to understand here is the Pharisee that invoked the devotee of Hiranyakashipu, when he destroyed it, the roar echoed into such a way, the battle, it has been said that actually the battlefield in entire different cosmos actually was getting disturbed. His energy and one precise was so powerful, so purposeful. It was a purposeful because Hiranyakashipu was actually had got such kind of boon, and such kind of Swarupa was really needed for taking back the situation into normal. He was so wild, to put it into a very simple word, he was so wild that actually even the divine energy he could not understand. Like, unchecked about his divine energy, the disturbance balance started it. Not because of he becoming the evil, because he was Pashu Swarupa at that time, but because he has fulfilled its role. It is not about a withdrawing, it is about becoming the excess. He is becoming more. Because of a human form, because of the animal form, this particular thought was being active. This is not the ego of a human sense. Let me just tell very clearly. Maybe people listening on this video may be thinking that and may write back to me with a big emails. That normally happens to me. Here, try to understand this mythological connection is not about the human sense of ego. It is a subtle cosmic imbalance. The pride not with the arrogance, but with the attachment to the one's own power, because he is in a Pashu Swarupa. Even Devatas could not approach him. Rishimunis could not owe him or approach him and go to him. Even Prahalada calling him, he being actually called the entire Narasimha Swarupa, he was actually even called by Prahalada, his beloved devotee. That was the reason actually Narasimha came into existence. Even his prayer, Stuti, Kavacham was not able to calm down the avatar of the Mahavishnu, Narasimha. The balance of the dharma was again at the risk, because the way he used to roar, the cosmos used to shake. Not from the adharma, but from the time, but from the aftershock of a rightishness ungrounded which happened. In this trinity of the creation, the Brahma, Vishnu, and Paramashiva, they were able to see all these things. You know that actually, it is not actually one person coming there and doing all the actions. It is the omnipresence. Shiva Tattva or Vishnu Tattva or a Brahma Tattva is about the omnipresence. Being in one place, they play a multi Swarupa or multi Avatara perspective. That's how even Vishnu played. Here, three Tridevas were able to see what was happening here. And it was our Paramashiva who remains silent observer. He was still and centered of the cosmic wheel, which was getting imbalanced because of Narasimha Avatara. He was silent. He was just observing what is going on. He does not intervene at the surface, like very surface level. He did not went through and he told that to stop. No. His action arises only when the inner balance was disturbed, because the inner balance is somewhat like, it is not about the external reaction what Narasimha Avatara is trying to create. It is about the inner pride which has activated into the Swarupa. This is the inner balance disturbance. And so Paramashiva he watched and he saw the Narasimha's flame was unstoppable through the born of the justice, but that was no longer a anchoring for the clarity. Moreover, the storm which the Narasimha Avatara created had served its purpose. It was already killed the Hiranyakashipu, but it was a time for the sky to be much more clear, because after everything is done, you need to calm down. But it was not happening. From that stillness of the Shiva, the inner being of the particular Paramashiva Tattva perspective, something emerged. And that emerged was not in anger, but out of compassion, in necessity. And the divine stillness is Sharabha Avatara. And Sharabha Avatara, we will talk about this, but here in Tantra, it is also been said, it is Virabhadra. Virabhadra came into existence. So when Virabhadra came and stood in front of Narasimha, not as an enemy, but in a divine recognition. When Narasimha Swami was able to gaze into the Veerabhadra, Bhairava, he is also a Bhairava, still blazing in his eyes. The Narasimha Avatara, his blazing eyes met the Bhairava's glance, and that still moment, nothing profound occurred. You may be thinking that actually there would be a big fight between both of them. No, it was a silent moment. There was no war at all. There was no weapons were raised. As you may had heard about in the Shiva Purana, when Veerabhadra first came into in the Swarupa of a Jata of the Shiva, he actually was, because of a Sati's father, due to which actually Sati had left her body, he sent his army to actually chop off his head. There he took a weapon, there was a war, but here there is no war, no weapons was raised, no mantra was spoken, just a single glance, and that glance that reflected in the Narasimha own unsolved ecstasy back to him, brought him back that yes, his avatara is completed now. His avatara was for the reason, and now that avatara is completed. The glance that dissolved, the final reduced of the imbalance which was being created in the cosmos was diluted. It was not a clash of the gods, or it was not the clash of the Swarupas, not the clash of the avatars. It was just a glance, making him the Daiva Tattva aware that why he was exactly came here, and it has already been completed. And it was a moment of a divine self-realization. This entire encounter of the story, whatever or the mythological event happened, Narasimha saw himself as not as a what we call it as a victorious or a glory of a victory avatara, but a temporary expansion of the eternal. This falls him cool down. His form softened. That softness actually made, then Lakshmi came into, and Lakshmi was able to console him, where actually the Swarupa of Narasimha calmed down completely. He turned into the formless. This particular event was very, very consciously being articulated. Here, Veerabhadra Swarupa is none other than Mahakala Bhairava. Here, from a Bhairava consciousness perspective, you need to understand one thing. This moment was not just an event between the Narasimha Avatara and Veerabhadra. It is a birth of a spiritual principles. It is like which would later fully manifest into the Bhairava consciousness perspective. Bhairava consciousness was active. Here, Bhairava is not destroying for the sake of the violence. Bhairava is a force that ends what has overtook or overstayed into the purpose. Bhairava, here Mahakala Bhairava is teaching that he burns not to harm but to purify, and the purification is none other than Mahakala Bhairava consciousness. It is a Bhairava consciousness. In this Virabhadra episode or Virabhadra story, whatever we have heard, it is like we need to understand the outcome of the Veerabhadra Swarupa was Mahakala Bhairava, not in the form, but in the function. You need to understand this very carefully. It is not in the form. The Veerabhadra became a preciser to the Mahakala Bhairava, not in the form, but in the function. He carries the essence of the divine, we can call it as intercity, with a precision that actually what need to be done once the avatara has been completed. That was the grace of Mahakala Bhairava. This is the Bhairava ultimately represents. The Bhairava represents here in many different forms. Here we need to understand that the confrontations of the pride, is even the part of Daivas, whole style of beings, because when they take into the human existence, once they are in the form of the creation, once they came it, there would be a little bit of spike. That is the reason the purification is very much needed, and for the purification, Daiva Anugraha is needed. And second is about the end of a spiritual eternity, that even if it appears righteousness should be there, and after the righteousness is completed we need to go back. This is what we need to understand here. The Paramashiva, the unfiltered awareness, he created us unfiltered awareness which strips away illusion, stating that it is not about the avatara. Once you have done with the avatara, there is a small anu of the ego which has been activated in the Swarupa, which need to be diluted. And to dilute that, Mahakala Bhairava Swarupa was came into picture in a Veerabhadra Swarupa. When, see here, the story is very beautifully articulated. There is one more story which is again connected to Mahavishnu. Like you would be knowing, like in Varaha Avatara. This is like in a very strange, like a karmic twist, fate story. It is about more into like after lifting, like you know that actually Jaya Vijaya, as I told you, when actually the Varaha Avatara, when he lifted the earth from the cosmic flood, there was a complete flood. I believe you would be knowing all the stories, but still, after lifting the earth, the Mahavishnu in a Varaha Avatara, the boar form, okay, incarnation of Mahavishnu, he stood, and other side of the divine spectrum we need to know. You know that actually he was the person who saved the entire cause, earth, Bhuloka at that time. We all being a part of Bhuloka, they are the governing the Bhuloka, all Saptalokas, 14 lokas they govern, the entire cosmos they govern. So here, when the in the Varaha Avatara, when Vishnu lifted the earth from the cosmic flood which happened due to the Asuric activity, when he was lifting, when the Varaha Avatara was lifting the water, like flood from the water, he lifted the earth. When the water went inside the ears, okay, here there was actually it has been said that actually due to the tamasic force, when he went and actually he lifted the actions, everything, there was 3 force which was born to him, okay, 3 sons, we can call it as, in that particular divine spectrum or in the savior situation, he became a father, and the father of the darkness. And the darkness was not, you know that even Madhu Kaitaba, even there where actually came from the Karna of the Vishnu. Similar is the story. When the Varaha Avatara, when Vishnu lifted the earth, the 3 sons were born. It was Savrutu, the second was Kanaka, the third was Ghora. Savrutu was actually, all were Asuras. Okay. These 3 sons were born to Mahavishnu, and it is said that actually due to the Tamasika Guna, which as a sweat it came, the 3 Asuras were born. But these were not ordinary Asuras, they were extraordinary. They did not roar or clash the cities like other Asuras did in all the mythological stories, or brute through the strength, taking up the Swargaloka, going into all the Loka realm, taking everything into control. No, they did not do this. This was the demons of a, we can call it as distortion, more dangerous than any battlefield warriors. They were much more dangerous. Here we need to understand the sacred in the province was in such a way, like even the devatas were devised by the illusion, because they turned light into merged into the dharma, into the confusion. They created the confusion in the Daivaloka, that they entered into the consciousness of the Daivas, where actually the light, they turned into light into a mirage actually, and to a dharma into the confusion. They manipulated the dharma, spreading the suffering quietly through the mind. You know that actually Maya, they were Maya Putras, and not with the swords. They were a Maya Putra, they actually created this realm. And here, even the Devatas were helpless, because Devatas got to know that actually this is what is happening. Adharma is actually getting raised. Even Rishunis was not able to perform their particular Homa, Yagna, Havana, due to which even the Ahuti was not able to receive from the Devatas. And even Devatas got to know about this. And that's where actually, again, as all the stories, Saptarishis went to the Shiva. And here, the dharma was actually being manipulated. These sons of yours, Vishnu, they went to the Vishnu and asked, your sons, you are undoing the very wrong in this fabric energy or fabric creation, where once protection is getting ended, please end this, destroy them, restore the balance. They were able to ask this. But Mahavishnu, despite his divine essence, you need to know, like, he was a father. He was still a father. And father will never harm the son. That is the reason we always do in 144 days of sadhana, when we talk about the foundation, it is you becoming a child for the Bhairava. He will become our father. Here, the asuras had come out from the Vishnu, and the divine essence was still a father. The strange soft, he had a soft heart and entered that being, because he know that actually they are my sons. They are doing adharma, but he did not reacted. He could not raise. He did not raise the tusk, because in that Varaha Avtara, against his own children's, not out of ignorance, but out of attachment, because they are part of him. Good, bad, ugly, they are part of him. So the burden of the restoration fell not in the preservator, but once again on to the destroyer, transcender. The destroyer, transcender, is none other than Paramashiva. Paramashiva again came into picture. All Satarishis went to the Paramashiva and requested him, Paramashiva, please help us in this. Here, it is again Mahakala Bhairava in a Sharabha Avatara. There is a story, as I told you earlier, for a Narasimha Avtara to calm down, Shiva took a Sharabha Avatara. Few of the story tells that line. But in a Kaula Tantra, in a Kashmiri Shaivism, when we talk about the story perspective, in a Tantra, it is in a different way. Okay, here there is a Virabhadra when it comes to the Hiranyakashipu, but here when it comes to the Varaha Avtara, that is a Suvrutu, Kanaka, as well as a Ghora, to actually destroy them, Sharabha Avtara came into picture, and all Sharab in here. When Saptarishis went and requested Paramashiva, Sharabha Avtara was like the heart of a divine stillness. The Shiva was in such a stillness, he did not raise the anger or punish him. Instead, he revealed the form. That form was transcendence necessity, because Mahavishnu, being a creator, being a father, he having a tusk, he did not took the action. Here, Paramashiva took action. And that particular moment which emerged was Sarabeshwara, Mahakala Bhairava. Here, he is part lion, he is a part bird, he is like a divine, like we can call it as paradox. He is a little bit of, not like a human, animal, but half lion, half bird. Here we need to understand, he began to roar. Sharabha Avatara, when Shiva came into, he started roaring, and that roar beyond the logic, beyond the form, beyond the fear of the creation. And the Sharabeshwara was a force. He was like the force that tears, that rooted the suffering of the devatas because of the asuric, the three kids of the Vishnu, the three kids making a suffering, not with a cruelty, but with a compassion. Okay, it burns like illusions, like a fire burning in a fog. That's how actually Sarabeshwara Avatara was able to be a weapon. He did not fight with a weapon. Here, try to understand, most of the Swarupas of Shiva did not fight with a weapon. It is about the silence. He entered into the subtle realm of the ego, karmic destruction, as well as spiritual decaying, which was happening into that particular time aspect. There, he was, because they went into these three Vinas, all these three kids, the Varaha Avatara, when actually the three kids were born. We can call it as Suvratu, Kanaka, as well as Ghora. Here, Suvratu was in the form of ego, Kanaka was in the form of a karmic destruction, and the third one was Ghora. Ghora, actually, why I normally, even I get a little bit confused with, because Ghora actually, it comes in three different aspects. Anaghora, there is one more Swarupa, Anughora. Maybe in some other storyline or some other connection of the Bhairava, we will talk about him. Here, he was a spiritual decaying. He was decaying spiritual process. All these three sons, in the form of ego, karmic destruction, as well as spiritual decay, they were shattered. The Suvirtu, pride was shattered. The Kanaka's greed melted into the divine light. He became the Adhara for actually the divine light. Ghora, he dissolved into that particular silence. Ghora, Aghora. There is a different storyline. But here, when these three Swarupas was being diluted, we need to understand. After myth, when there is a silence as well as a transcendence when happen, here Mahakala Bhairava in a Sharabha Avatara had fulfilled the purpose. When the illusion has been completed, the world began to breathe again in a simple way. Rishimunis were happy. He did not boasted. Okay, he did not remain there as what in the Vishnu Swarupa Mahavishnu did. That is the reason actually he took a Sharabha Avatara, half lion and half a bird. It was not a human. Human always have a ego in somewhere. This is what actually it is trying to show. After Sharabha Avatara, the final exhalation, the exhalation of the final, he got it. From that moment, the power emerged back into the peace. And that emerged something, it was very, very deep. It was a silence. It was a stillness. It is a transcending beyond the duality. It was not about the destruction. It was about the liberation. Here, in Sharabha Avatara, he was none other than Mahakala Bhairava. Here, Bhairava teaches us very beautiful things, like even in divine can face the delusions. Even gods cannot hesitate, because in human form, these are the common. But the truth, when expressed through the form like Sharabha Avatara, Veerabhadra Avatara, in a Mahakala Bhairava Avatara perspective, cut through even the subtle bondage between the Devata. There was not a clash, there was not any kind of a war, not with the weapons, but with the awareness, with that silence, they were able to make sure that actually the cosmic imbalance was being settled. Not all the battles are loud. Let me just tell you. Bhairava Guna or a Bhairava Avatara, whenever it has come out, many of the forms is not with the battle on a louder note. Some are fought within. That's how Bhairava works. And the what we call it as a fiercest grace is that, like, which dissolves the illusion, not one through the glorifying the destruction. Just by the gaze, he was able to clear it up. Here, what truly understand the Mahakala Bhairava, what we need from this mythological events is, see, he is not just another form of Shiva. Mahakala Bhairava is not other form of the Shiva. He is a Shiva's most direct presence. Bhairava is Shiva's most direct presence. Other Swarupa came for a reason. He, in Mahakala Bhairava Swarupa, he came for the awareness, for the silence, rising the silence. The energy that step in when something must be ended, when the truth must be faced, and when the silence must be act. That's where our Ishtartha Mahakala Bhairava came into existence. In the spiritual path, like a tantra, we need to understand a deep yoga or a Bhairava Guna is not only the whispering like other gods or mantra goshana or kavacha. Above than that, he is experienced through the inner practice. We in Daivanugraha, we always tell this, like actually it is not about the number of Nama Japa you do, number of Mala you do, number of Kriya you do, number of Nitya Puja you do, number of Sadhana Mandala you do. It is about how you are going to throw yourself, how you are going to experience the Bhairava Tattva. And that Tattva can activate only once you complete 3 mandalas. It's very, very essential. Grounding, it will be grounding in the Bhairava Sadhana perspective. It will make you to meet the creator. The creation will create that foundation. And that creation is none other than sadhana. Okay, we need to understand, like meditation can be done. And when Bhairava is all about Ajna Chakra. Many times it has been said, Bhairava is none other than activating Ajna Chakra, because inner practice activate only when you experience from Ajna Chakra. The third eye, starting into the flame. Trataka, we call it as Trataka, the flame of knowledge, the flame of awareness, the flame of getting connected to the divine. Calming this mind completely is necessary, and that can only happen with Bhairava Tattva. And when we as a sadhakas do a practice sincerely, many of them tell me that I'm doing the sadhana from 3 years, 4 years. I have done 1 lakh Nama Japa, 5 lakh Nama Japa. Few of them actually will write me such a big emails that reading those emails, I feel as if actually I'm getting connected, because such a beautiful narration what they share it with me. I really bow down to them, because the way they explain to me is really a beautiful connection. But here, something powerful we need to understand here is, we being in a form of a human, we always have something called as an ego. Every human, even if we are a sadhaka, upasaka, still as a human, it did not even live to the Mahavishnu in the Swarupa of the Narasimha. After all, we are humans. And this human form, ego is the most thing. The false sense of I that would be burnt away only with Bhairava consciousness, only from Bhairava sadhana. Our mental noise will fade away only when Bhairava comes and resides into the Garbhagriha of our heart. We enter the space where we feel outside the time. In the sadhana, when we are doing it, we feel something like it is like we are gone into a trance situation, and we have connected to the timeless situation. Not because of a time has ended, but because something eternal inside is awakening, and that eternal awakening is none other than experience, and that experience is only the grace of Bhairava. And that whole thing, burning the ego, fading the noise, and getting the experience awakened, is none other than Bhairava consciousness. Here, Mahakala Bhairava, he's activated Sampurna in a Sampurna Swarupa, where we are, as a sadhaka, we are getting to know. It is not about the violent. These stories of Mahakala Bhairava in the Swarupa of a Sharabha avatar, in the Swarupa of the Virabhadra, he is trying to teach us that it is not about the violence, it is not about the scary, it is about the clear cleansing fire, the fire of the ego, the cleansing the cleansing the noise, cleansing the making your body subtle. It is a cleansing fire on the does not hurt but free us from no longer served over to this sole purpose, because we as the sadhakas need to know that what is the purpose why I have come here, to know that Bhairava Anugraha is very, very essential, and through the Bhairava sadhana is the only way. See, many people tell other many ways to actually to reach to the divine, but this oneself, I as a person, I know only one thing is Bhairava sadhana, Bhairava Anugraha is the only way, because I know only that, nothing else I know. So what we need to know from here is in this episode, the Kala Bhairava is the gate of a sacred time. He's gardening the secret of the time. He is actually the taking care of the entire time, because he's a Kala. He is actually governing the time. But Mahakala Bhairava burns that gate themselves. So only truth remains. He is the freeness. Here, what we need to understand is, see, there are many beautiful connection even in Mahakala Bhairava perspective. Like there is a beautiful story about Totapuri Maharaja connecting to the Mahakala Bhairava. And there is one particular essence of a Ujjain, the Bhumi of the Shiva, the incarnation of the ground awakening. That particular master Totapuri was, you would be knowing, he is a monk from the Kurukshetra perspective. Nirguna is a Nirguna Brahma. He is also called as a Nirguna Brahma because he is from a Baba. We call it as Mahavtara Baba, Babaji actually. Totapuri was actually such a divine monk. Even we have one of a story connected to him, which is connected to Mahakala Bhairava. And Ujjain is something like a seat of Mahakala Bhairava, because we talk about Vamachara, we talk about Kaulachara, we talk about Kapilaka, we talk about Aghora Tattva. All these things, the Tantra tradition, are connected to the Mahakala Bhairava, because here he is being worshipped in Panchamakaras. Few of them only know about from the Bhasma. No, there are many other aspects when it comes to the Bhasma Abhisheka. There are many other aspects. Maybe actually we'll try to talk in the different video. Also, there is one connection like something like Mantra Siddhi. There is a very beautiful connection between Mantra Siddhi, where actually there is something called as a Yoga Siddhi as well as a Mantra Siddhi. As we being a sadhakas, we need to know about these aspects, because these, one of a story actually is connected to Adi Shankaracharya, where he teaches us how beautiful this Yoga Siddhi, Mantra Siddhi is connected to the Tantra. He is beautifully articulated, and this story is actually connected to Mahakala Bhairava. Maybe as time is getting, we are getting close to the time, we will talk in a different episode about the Mahakala Bhairava, where all this information will be shared. And most prominently, we will talk about Mahakali, because Mahakala Bhairava, the concept of Mahakala Bhairava is Mahakali, because he who is time beyond the time is Mahakala, but and beloved of that Maha time, beyond the time, is the dark mother Kali herself. And to know about her and the guna, whatever he's been spoken about him, maybe Mahakala Bhairava has been called as like Kalika Ramanatha, Kalika Nayaka, Kalika Priya, Kalika Hridaya Jnana. It may be like even Kalika Tanuyo Nitya. These are the names actually which makes very connected to know about what is a connection between Mahakala Bhairava and Mahakali herself. Mahakala is a womb of that night. Maybe we will talk about this in the next episode. Um, Today, whatever we have spoken, just try to listen once again, such that actually you know our Ishtartha Bhairava, how beautifully he is connecting the each connection in this cosmic web. We being in this Bhairava sadhana, in this Bhairava consciousness, we can know him, his different swarupas, his different leelas, his different avataras, his different swarupas, which has enlightened us to make clear that it is only the Bhairava consciousness which we as a sadhaka need to know. And that is a half of the awareness, and that half of the awareness is Bhairava consciousness. Maybe with that note, we'll take a leave about the comprehensive discussion of what we have done today. The mystical stories are very, very essential in the Bhairava sadhana perspective, because you would get to know where exactly our Guru Bhairava is connected. Bhairava consciousness, Bhairava Tattva is connected to different mystical stories which is actually been articulated in the mythology, in the Sanatana. The sacred stotras, the sacred mantras, the sacred connection between these mythological stories we need to understand. And to understand that, you need to understand how exactly this particular connection is in connect, such that we get to know little bit about our Guru Bhairava. And just to know about him in a little sense is just his grace. It is only his grace that we are able to talk about him, listen about him, know about him, and understand about him. So maybe with that note, Om Bhairavaya Namaha. Om Hingulambikaya Namaha. Om Kamakyaya Namaha. Om Hingule Paramahingule Amritarupini Tanushakti Manashive Shri Hingulaya Namaha. Namaskaram.